This is farewell. They never learn. It's my turn now. Pray this ends quick. No thank you required.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, my name is Mangs, and today I welcome you guys to yet another Fire Emblem character spotlights. We're currently on a bit of an Echoes marathon, and the next few spotlights will all be dedicated to the newest installment in the franchise. Today we continue with a spotlight of the first playable soldier in Fire Emblem history, the calm knight, Lukas.
What shall we do? Find some sort of diversion?
Lukas is a 24-year-old man fighting for the Deliverance. He grew up on the borderlands of Sofia as a part of a noble house. His father was very strict and forced him to train hard from his early years in preparation of becoming a knight. Lukas, on the other hand, was more interested in reading and would often sneak away with a book rather than drill with a spear, something his father disapproved strongly of. Lukas also had an older half-brother who he never forged a particularly strong relationship with. At some point later on in his life, his brother would force him to enlist in the Deliverance. Because his brother viewed Lukas as a potential future threat, this was a very smart move. By doing this, he effectively made sure that Lukas would never rise to challenge his noble status, and if the Deliverance somehow would be hailed as heroes in the future, he could ride the coattails of their success and praise himself for making his half-brother enlist, and in the off chance that Lukas would die, he would simply be rid of a competitor. While Lukas ended up being grateful for enlisting, he was sad to learn that his brother only wanted to get rid of him. In the Deliverance, Lukas showed great talent early on, and would quickly rise through the ranks to become a respected member of their organization. However, he would occasionally be talked down to by the other nobles, particularly Fernand, who gave him the nickname Backwater Noble, due to Lukas's house not being particularly wealthy or well known among the Sofian nobility. With tensions rising in Sofia, and Chancellor Desai growing bolder by the day, rumors started to circulate that the Chancellor had been bribing a band of pirates to assault a Deliverance-held outpost by the sea. Lukas, alongside two fresh recruits, Foresight and Python, was sent alongside a band of Deliverance soldiers to come to the outpost's rescue. However, before they could get there, Lukas got into a fight with a duke who challenged his authority in front of the other soldiers. When the duke called him a backwater buffoon, Lukas uncharacteristically lost his temper, and the two came to blows. Lukas won the fight and left the duke face down in the dirt, humiliating him in front of the other soldiers. However, the day after, the Duke convinced the rest of the soldiers to desert, leaving only Lukas, Python, and Foresight to come to the outpost's aid. Despite losing all their soldiers, they pressed on, and made it just in time to reach the outpost and rescue the soldiers who were already under attack by the pirates. In the end, they still lost control of the outpost, but they managed to save the lives of the men stationed there. When tensions within Sofia finally erupted into a full-scale conflict, Chancellor Desai initiated his coup by killing King Lima and then later fleeing Sofia Castle. Lukas was part of the group of knights who stood against Slade and his invasion force, who had arrived to lay siege to the castle and take it over as part of the coup. They fought bravely against superior numbers, but when a Regalian force showed up to assist the siege, the Knights of the Deliverance knew that they had no chance of holding out, thus they pulled their final trump card. Calling out Slade, Lukas threatened to execute every single Regalian civilian within Sofia Castle, unless they were allowed to safely lead the siege. Not daring to anger Emperor Rudolf, Slade was forced to comply with the terms. While the Knights of the Deliverance felt their honor had been sullied by such an act, they at least managed to escape the siege with their lives intact. With their new base of operations located at the bottom of a deserted old crypt, the Knights of the Deliverance faced harsh times. With Sofia Castle completely under Chancellor Desai's control, and more soldiers deserting the Deliverance daily, things were looking mighty grim. Thus, Lukas was given a very important task by Clive, to seek out the legendary war hero Mycen, who resided in Rom Village, to ask him to lead the Deliverance against Desai. Lukas made his way south all the way to the village, but was sadly turned down when he met Mycen, who wanted no part in the conflicts. He did, however, meet Mycen's grandson, Alm, who was very eager to leave the village. Accompanied by Tobin, Gray, Cliff, and Faye, Alm and Lukas left Rom Village to make their way to the Deliverance hideouts. As with many other characters, Lucas's Gaiden artwork is severely lacking and pretty generic. He is depicted as a strongly built man with red hair that matches his armor. There really isn't much more to say about his artwork. Come Echoes, Lucas has received a complete redesign, with short red hair and red-brown eyes. He still wears a similar set of red-colored armor, complete with a breastplate and shoulder pads, but now wears leather armor underneath, as well as a dark brown shirt and pants. While he may be considered a bit plain-looking, he is also considered to be very handsome by a lot of people. Lukas is an extremely calm person who seldom allows his emotions to get the better of him. He speaks with a cold, strict professionalism and has a reputation for being very level-headed among the Deliverance. However, in a support conversation with Clive, we learned that what most people consider to be his greatest asset is actually something Lukas himself sees as a drawback. He is in fact a person that wants to be more emotional and is distressed over the fact that he feels so little, though he certainly appreciates that other people rely on his stability. We also learn in a support conversation with Foresight that Lukas wasn't very keen on becoming a knight at all, and that he was more interested in spending his time reading, but was forced by his father into knighthood. He envies Forsyth, who in contrast did everything in his power to become a knight, despite his father wanting him to spend more time reading. Despite his cold composure, Lukas is a kind person, with a slightly dry sense of humor. He often fears that his disconnected emotional state makes him come across as unfriendly, and spends a lot of time reflecting on his own actions. He also worries that his distant emotions might make him detached from his duties, and tries his best to put as much effort into training as possible. In Gaiden, Lukas is the first soldier to join you in Alm's party, and in the early game he is one of your most valuable units, as the villagers need a lot of babying before they come into their roles. Lukas has a great base strength, and together with Alm is one of the only units on your team capable of inflicting any meaningful damage to the bandits. By Gaiden standards, Lucas's growth rates are pretty solid overall, with a heavy emphasis on hit points and skill. Though he suffers from a low strength growth, his high base strength coupled with promotional gains should allow him to deal decent damage throughout the early to mid game, though he may start to fall behind in the late game and may require a strong lance to keep up. If you want to, you can consider giving Lukas 1 or 2 points of speed from the fountain in the Thief Shrine, as this will allow him to double most enemies reliably, considering enemies in Gaiden scale very poorly with levels. Many would perhaps consider this a poor choice though, as the fact that Lukas struggles to double is what makes him great at weakening larger packs of enemies, allowing your other units to kill them off and get the experience for themselves. Lukas will very quickly become one of the tankiest units on your team, especially when he promotes to a knight, and eventually to a baron. Since Warp has global range in Gaiden, it is considered a very good strategy to use Silk to send Lukas into or even behind enemy lines to draw a lot of attention away from the enemy forces. While Lukas will seldom be able to kill large packs of enemies on his own, he can weaken them so that your other units will have less difficulties dealing with them later on. Just be careful about warping him close to packs of enemy magic users, as his defense is worthless against them. Come Echoes, many would maybe argue that Lukas has fallen a bit from grace since his Gaiden days. While he functions very similarly, having decent base attack and durability, enemies have higher stats, especially on hard mode. It doesn't help that the warp spell, which was Lucas's favorite means of transportation, now has a range limited by magic, no longer allowing Silk to airdrop Lukas behind enemy lines like she used to. Still, Lukas will eventually turn out to be one of the tankiest units on your team, and with a solid 45% defense growth, he ensures it stays that way. Due to his very high damage output, he will be able to inflict moderately high damage with each strike, and he makes very good use of heavy lances like the Steel Lance. His speed is still very shaky though, and while you can give him a few uses of the Speed Fountain in the Thief Shrine, it is still not guaranteed that Lukas will stay in doubling territory due to enemies and echoes having much higher speed gains overall. However, due to the way combat arts work in this game, this means that Lukas will often be able to make much better use of them, since he won't double naturally anyway. Using one of your 3 villagers forks on Lukas to reclass him is certainly a viable option if you feel you don't need an armor knight, or if you want to let Foresight do the tanking. Lukas can become a pretty decent cavalier, working similarly to Clive in that he becomes a mobile tank that hits pretty hard. Mercenary is also something to consider, as this will patch up Lucas's low base speed and make it possible for him to consistently double enemies. This will make him become a very similar variant of Saber on Celica's side, a tanky Myrmidon with good damage output who will land a lot of criticals. As an archer, his decent skill will be utilized to hit enemies dependably, something Python struggles with, but Lukas will sadly not be able to double most enemies reliably, something archers kinda rely on to deal significant damage. Lastly, you could consider reclassing him to a mage, but Lukas' spell list is severely limited, with only fire and thunder available as his offensive spells, so it's not really a viable alternative unless you're really keen on the idea of a tanky mage. Whatever you decide to do with Lukas, he will still be a very important unit in your playthrough, as the villagers need something durable to hide behind while they earn their promotions. Even into the mid-game, you will find that Lukas will serve as a very useful shield and damage dealer. Take good care of this backwater noble, and his cold analytical skills will surely serve you quite well.
Our meeting here can only be called fortuitous.
Thank you for watching this Fire Emblem character spotlight. If you enjoyed it, please leave a like and a comment, it really helps out the channel a lot. I would like to give a special shout out to Master NX. He has been very helpful in sending me important material that I need for my spotlight, such as in-game voice files and the like. He has a YouTube channel where he posts a lot of different content, some of it Fire Emblem related. I have thrown a link in the video description if you want to check him out. I would also like to thank my other Patreon supporters as well. Anyone of bronze tier or higher will automatically be listed at the end of my spotlights and certain other videos. I am very grateful for your continued support. Thank you so much. The beautiful art and design you see created in this video was made by my designer Mina Tangerina, and my script editors Nasiro and Sonagi helped me fine-tune the script for this spotlight. As always, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Thank you so much for watching. My name is Mangs, and I'll see you again soon. Goodbye!